Welcome to my world, where you will experience an atmosphere of love, relevant subjects, and motivation. So let's talk about things that matter. What matters to you matters to me.
Ready.
Well, hello. Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. We've had many challenging and tough subjects on the show, but I think one of the most toughest subjects I've ever had to address is the one that we're going to talk about today, and that is suicide prevention. Today, my special guest is Vonita Kelly. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
For
nice
being
to be here.
on the show today. Vonita Kelly is a professional counselor. She's also a clinical therapist, and she has dedicated nearly 2 decades to public service and helping people. And Vonita, before we get started, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
I am a mother of 4. I'm married. I've got a practice here in Joplin, where we're at today. I have a practice in Springfield, Missouri. I'm also a professional mediator. The mediation is victim offender and family mediation. I work with ages 3 to 84 in my practice. I specialize in trauma, and I operate from a cognitive behavioral standpoint. I think that probably sums up mostly everything about me.
That's good. Today we're talking about suicide prevention. Can you tell us what does that mean?
So, suicide prevention basically are those things that we can help people that are thinking about committing suicide or have had a failed attempt, and maybe reconsidering. So I hope that today we would be able to just provide some information, just some tidbits of things that family members can do to help other members that are struggling with the thoughts of, maybe even help some family members that have had people in their family that have actually committed and completed suicide.
Yeah, I've been in those situations before, and I've always described it this way. It's one of those feelings where you feel like the world would be a better place without you. It's the lowest of the lowest feeling that you could ever
that feeling of hopelessness.
And what helped me come out of that is people like you, therapists, and reaching out. And sometimes people are afraid to reach out for various reasons, and we'll talk about that probably here in a little bit. What causes a person to want to become suicidal? We know that there are various reasons.
There are various reasons. Sometimes we have undiagnosed or untreated mood disorders. Sometimes we have people that have decided to just give up on life. Maybe they do feel hopeless. Maybe they do feel like there's no one that they can turn to. There's a number of reasons, and so to say that there's just one, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
People come to so many different conclusions. Sometimes it is just feeling like getting in that dark place and feeling like there's no way that you're gonna
snap out of there.
Yeah.
And it's really it's an epidemic too. Like, not only has it affected us personally, but even globally, it affects so many people.
Yes.
And it's really sad. So how can you identify or tell when someone is becoming suicidal? Is there a way?
There really isn't one specific way, and so I would suggest to people, you used to hear people say, oh, if they tell you they're going to commit suicide, they're really not going to do it.
Yeah.
Well, that's false.
Yeah.
Because many people do tell you exactly what their intention is.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it was some people would say, well, they won't tell you. But some of the things that I look at when I'm working with clients is how are they dealing with the life's pressures? How are they dealing with the things going on around them? I do a quick assessment. And we talk about how they're feeling. We talk about their access to any type of instrument or any means to commit suicide. We always create a plan, like who can you go and talk to? Is there someone that you feel comfortable to reach out to? And sometimes, as a therapist, we have a tendency to have people complete suicide. They complete a contract that basically says to them that they're going to give us their word that they're not going to try to harm themselves. And if they feel like they are, we have a list of people they can reach out to, including ourselves. One of the things that I've noticed with people is that they may feel really sad, and then for a couple of days, they seem like everything is okay.
Yeah.
And that oftentimes is someone that has decided they're going to go through with it. Sometimes I see people that they start giving their belongings away, or they start trying to clean up or clear up any misunderstandings that they've had with people in the past. That's their attempt to start trying to take care of any issues that they've had so that they can...
Making preparation.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Many people, even on social media, they express their feelings, well, that's by means of Instagram, Facebook. There's so many platforms out there. When someone comes online, I've seen this on numerous occasions, sometimes it's hard to read people's emotions, and even if it's authentic, when people post such things as, I'm going to hurt myself, I'm going to kill myself, how can you discern, if that's authentic or if it's just somebody that's just going through a phase? I certainly don't think it's anything to joke around about.
No. And so I don't think that we really should have to. I don't think we should try to discern whether or not they're in that place, that hopeless place. I think what we should do is offer them, try to reach out to them.
Yeah.
Maybe check with them and see, who do you have with you?
Yeah.
Who's with you right now? What are you going to be doing for the rest of the evening? Do you have someone you can talk to? And take that approach with it. That way, because there is no right formula.
Yeah,
there is no correct formula that says this person is going to do that.
Yeah.
If there were, then I'm convinced that we would have no one that would complete suicide. But because we don't have a right way, we have to take everything people say seriously.
Do you think in many cases it could even be a form of them reaching out for help?
Yes, sometimes it very well is that person, when they've tried everything else, they reach out. Sometimes it is that, yes.
Okay, what are some warning signs and behaviors should we look for?
So I would look for someone that's struggling with depression. I look for someone that has isolated themselves from people, that's no longer has a family, a secure unit, support unit around. I would look for people that certainly feel hopeless. I would also look for people, sometimes they may have been hopeless, but suddenly they have this quick turnaround without having their problems resolved and without having an explanation for why they're feeling better. They just suddenly feel better because maybe in their mind they've decided this is what I'm going to do.
Oh, that's good. I hope you're enjoying this interview so far. Let's take a quick break. We will be right back. Hearing about suicide is not only disheartening, but it's also devastating. This is an epidemic that's not only affected many of us personally, but it has even affected many of us on a personal level. I'm sure many of you have had or heard of someone who have committed suicide. those who felt like that life was no longer worth living. I believe that there is a way to help. Not only is there a way to help, there is a effective way to reach out to people who may be struggling with suicidal thoughts, who may feel like life is no longer worth living, who may feel like that their voice does not matter. And that's exactly why we're doing this program today, just for you. Also, those of you that are watching, this is a huge way that you can help. As many of you have told me that you have had loved ones who have committed suicide. Many of you have said that you have a passion for this subject, and many of you have made a commitment to share this interview today. So you may be asking, well, Henry, how can I help? How can I save a life? It's pretty simple. Why don't you hit the share button? And by doing so, you could save a life. And if you're watching and you struggle with suicidal thoughts, I want you to know that in your darkest hour, there is hope. That there is a body of people that care about you and love you. Now let's return to the interview. Well, welcome back. Again, my special guest is Vonita Kelly, and I'm really enjoying this interview with you today. I'm getting so much insight on suicide prevention, and also for you to even be here with us really means a lot.
Very happy to be here. Thank
to
you.
me. This is a very touching subject. A lot of people I've talked to, like I said, it affects everybody. Whether you had somebody that's done it in your life personally or even globally, it really kind of hits home. My next question is it safe to ask a suicidal person what thoughts are they having?
I would probably ask them, hey, what's going on? What makes you feel that way? And then I always follow up as a therapist with, do you have a plan? Because when I have people say to me, this is how I'm going to do it, this is when I plan to do it, those are people that I immediately say, you know what, let's look for another alternative.
Yeah.
And we might look at, I've used hospitalization. Sometimes I have just used family or a support network that vows to stay with that person over the course of time while we're working through and helping them process through and reconsider their pain.
How many people that have come to you that have said this, you've been practicing this for years, have actually followed through with that? Or estimate?
Yes. I think I've been blessed that God has allowed me to. I get many young people that have referred to me because they've made suicidal comments or threats. Sometimes I get adults that have attempted suicide, a loss of a marriage or a relationship, sometimes even a loss of a job or a loved one. And so I've been blessed that I've been able to resolve, help them work through, we come up with a plan so that I can help that person see that if you wait just a little while, things can get better. That life is so worth living. And so I haven't had anyone in my practice that has actually completed suicide. I've had a couple of clients that were previous clients, maybe felt like they were doing better. I've had a couple of kids here in Joplin even. Parents brought them in, said they were better. I assumed they were better because I hadn't heard from them for, I think one of them was for about a year. And then I heard the name on the news. And my heart was just kind of broken. Now they indicated from what I heard on the news that they were seeing someone, and I don't know if that's, who they were seeing at that time or not. But whenever you have someone that takes that approach, it's a loss. I mean, it's a loss.
That's good. We talked about this earlier a little bit. but I just want you to expound probably a little bit more on it. Should we take it serious if someone is contemplating suicide?
Most definitely. Because if they're contemplating suicide, that says, for young kids, sometimes it's just a matter of things have gotten so difficult in their life and they don't see any way out. And they're young enough that they don't really understand the complete finalness of suicide. So we need to take that serious because they may attempt something and may complete it without fully being aware of the consequences. For adults that talk about committing suicide, we certainly need to take that very serious too, because that says that they've lost hope. And you mentioned earlier the growing numbers of suicides. I think a lot of it has to do with our society. Mm-hmm. We're at a place in our society now where there's not a lot of hope for people. Mm-hmm. And I think that we as citizens of the world, as people in the world, should all work to try to a little bit harder, to do a little bit more, to just put more hope out there. Yeah. So that people recognize that while you may feel bad today, it doesn't mean tomorrow it's going to be that way. Or maybe you need to develop a plan and a process to work through the problem, but still don't give up that you can't work through it.
Yeah, that's good. Many people have heard this interview thus far, and there may be some people that may be watching, and they may say, well, how can I help a person who may be having suicidal thoughts or contemplating it? In what ways can we help? Yeah, you mentioned hope earlier, but is there any other?
I think the biggest thing is just to engage them, because oftentimes when people get to that place that they feel no hope, it's also because they've isolated themselves or they feel isolated. So just engaging them, letting them know that you care, letting them know that you're concerned, is a great way to help. And if it's a loved one or a friend, then I think we can go a step further than that and maybe help them find things that they can do to keep their minds occupied, encourage them to go and find someone to talk to work through the problem. Everyone is not able or wants to, are capable of talking with someone about suicide, because that's death. Mm-hmm. And many people become uncomfortable about that. And sometimes when we're uncomfortable about it, they laugh it off and assume nothing is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I think that it is important that we do take it serious and that we begin to just kind of invest a little bit of ourselves and our time into other people.
Does it help people who have walked in those shoes, like people who have thought about committing suicide and they came out of it? Can they be a help to?
Oh, certainly. If they maybe just tell their story.
Like, hey, I've been there.
Yeah, if they just tell their story, that's a great way. It may reach someone that is at that same place or someplace similar, that they may say, oh, if they were able to do it, maybe I can do it too. Yeah. And then, of course, there are some suicide hotline numbers that they can always call in and talk with people. Those phones are always staffed, so it's great to be able to kind of refer them to those places.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not saying that those who have not had suicidal thoughts can't or not effective as well.
Yeah, yeah. But it's sometimes, if you've been down that road, and you understand, that's a great way to be able to connect to someone, to say, I get it, I understand how you feel, and this is what helped me.
That's good. This is my last question. It's kind of a tough question, but to me, at least it is. What are we not to do or say to a person who may be suicidal?
I think that the one thing that you don't do is you don't challenge them to do it. You don't challenge. You know, the kids now have, for a while, they've been using this phrase, well, just go kill yourself.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that. Actually, I heard a story. Actually, it was on Facebook not too long ago. A couple of people was getting in an argument, And in the comment section, she said, the girl that was the aggressor, she said to this other young lady, why don't you just go kill yourself? This same aggressor, a few days before that, shared a suicide prevention video, which is very conflicting. Like, how can you share that and then turn around and tell somebody to go harm themselves?
Yeah, that certainly says that there's something else going on with the aggressor. So I think that one of those things that we never want to do is challenge people to complete that act. That probably is the biggest thing. Just don't challenge people. If they are talking about committing suicide, take them at their word and work with them to try to help them. For kids that may hear other kids say it, if you feel like you can't reach out to them, then talk to an adult. Talk to a teacher or a parent, maybe a youth minister, but talk to someone to kind of get some help for your friends.
That's awesome. I think this was a great interview, and thank you so much. And as I've said earlier, there are many ways that you can help. Would you do me a favor? Would you mind sharing this video, whether it's on your Facebook page? We really want to get this out there. And to those who may be struggling in this area, I want you to know, as Vonita said, that you may be in a dark place. You may feel stuck. You may feel like your voice doesn't count. You may feel like that you don't matter. The fact that I'm sitting here and that Vonita is sitting here should show you that there are still 11 people in the world and that we do care about you.
Hi, if you like what you've seen today, be sure to connect with Brother Henry at www.facebook.com/The Brother Henry and You Show. And also be sure to check out and subscribe to his YouTube channel, which is www.youtube.com/Henry Harris 100. We hope that this has been a blessing to you, and we hope to hear from you soon. Keep watching, because what matters to you matters to Brother Henry.